What's going on? I want to do this particular feed over because my last one had a lag. I want to bring out a situation in Libya. Why is that very important to African Americans? This is our homeland. This is our foundation. Other countries, other immigrants have a foundation with their home country. That's why they're able to get a line of credit and buy up everything. A lot of Chinese billionaires from China are paving the way for Chinese here, buying up Chinatown, buying up land in America and giving it to their people here. They're paving the way. Our foundation is crumbled over in Africa. Now, what happens is that our foundation is taken from over there. It's divide and conquer. The French, the British toppled the governments in Africa. And what happens is once you topple the government, you leave and cause a civil war. Therefore, you can go in there and take all the resources, the gold, the diamonds, the oil, and that they're draining all of these countries. Now, Libya was fine with Gaddafi. He was getting ready to have his own currency in Africa. Had he done that in gold, French government would have collapsed, British, our government, and he was gonna have, if they would have had their own currency, he would have shut us out, and which he should have done, which he was doing, and he was combining with other African countries, and they was gonna shut any Western influence out, and that's when all of a sudden we have a problem with them, and we topple their government, and just like Rwanda, just like Iraq. They're in a civil war. Now, that's why Kim Jong-un, he didn't want to give up his nukes. He don't want to give up his nukes. He like, look here, if he do that, his country collapsed. But see, they have China to back them. They have a superpower. That's why he like, look, any country that get rid of their nuke, here we come. And we collapse, we go in there and conquer them. So, and how is it that we continue to make and build more nukes and we tell everybody else y'all can't have it? So I'm gonna bring y'all a story out of Libya. This is just one of many that's going on in their country.
Joining us from the International Organization of Migration. Organisation for Migration's taken testimony from Africans who've headed to the country in hope of starting a new life. Some have told of traffickers buying and selling people in garages and car parks for as little as $200. Many victims are subsequently subjected to starvation, forced labour and prostitution, and even murdered. It's a brutal face of the migrant crisis, and I'm joined now for more on this by Leonard Doyle. Leonard, thanks very much for speaking to us. Now tell us more about what people have been telling your investigators about enslavement in Libya.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. What we've been hearing for a number of months, with increasing frequency, is that migrants who unwittingly leave from all over West Africa, primarily, hoping to get a better life in Europe, end up being lured into Libya and into a gulag, which is the only way to describe it, of appalling abuse, which results in their being sold on from one person to another. They're being sold to the highest bidder in these farms, and women being enslaved as sex slaves. So it's just a shocking series of appalling abuses, and many times the migrants are indeed just murdered. It appears that they either don't have the skill or they don't have the money to pay for their way. So it's just the scale of what we're hearing is shocking.
So who's buying these people, and how are they finding them?
Well, what we're finding is that Libya is now a broken economy without any rule. It's got a very small population, 6 million people, and the size of Libya is twice the size of France. So it's a small population, and they seem to be essentially living off.
So now it's a broken economy. With Gaddafi in charge, their economy was thriving once upon a time. Just like we've seen in every other African country, divide and conquer.
The migrant trade. From migrants being passed from one to another, being exploited as labourers who don't get paid, or simply being abused in different ways and being sold on for profit. So it's kind of a shocking situation. and it's very difficult to know what can be done about it because the country is in such chaos. And as we know, ISIS are there. There are different militias. There's no central government of any name, and there's great chaos. And it's a huge problem for Europe because it's a gaping hole on the southern flank of Europe, as an ambassador recently described it.
Do you think there's much of an awareness on the side of those migrants who are setting out to Libya that this is one of the risks that they could be faced with?
I think this is the problem. Every migrant believes that they're going to get through, they're going to make it to Europe, and they're going to make a small living, but whatever it is, it's going to be more than what they have at the moment in their appalling situation. Usually it's a problem of poverty, or maybe it's advancing climate change taking away their crops. Whatever it is, they feel that they need a better life to support their family. The trouble is that it's very difficult to persuade people not to take this journey. And in the absence of a state and of borders that are controlled, the people just keep coming. So what we are trying to do in the International Organization for Migration is use those we are bringing home. Many, after a terrible time in Libya, decide it's time to go home. And we bring them home, and we bring them home with a message that they put on social media or they have on their local radio. And to start.
See, because now my immigrants are flooding over to Europe now, and they want to stop that. They like, look, now we got to do something because here we have these Libyans coming to our country.
Part of discussion with their communities about maybe that there are better choices in life than to put yourself in the hand of the enslaved, of the slave keepers.
Thank you very much, Leonard Doyle, there for us, joining us from the International Organization of Migration. Well, northeastern Nigeria, Somalia and South Sudan are falling deeper into hunger crises because of drought and conflict. UN's warned that tens of millions of people are at risk if the growing humanitarian crises are overlooked. It's put out an appeal for almost $4.5 billion in funding, but has released.
So I want you guys stay in tune with what's going on in Libya. It is very important. This is our foundation. This is our motherland that they have conquered. We don't have a foundation. Every other immigrant in this country has a foundation. The Chinese government is buying up land in America and all of Africa, and they supply Chinatown with billions of dollars, and therefore they can own a lot of land in America and have a better life for their people. Our homeland is collapsed, and that's what they do, divide and conquer. Once you topple the government like we did in Libya, that was fine, and had Gaddafi had his own currency, a lot of economies, the French, the British economies would have collapsed. Libya has a lot of resources, oil, gold, diamonds, and that's why they're, and that's what they do. Same thing we did in Iraq. Toppled the government, we put the minority in charge, the Shiite and the Sunni Muslims, put the minority in charge, cause a civil war, put somebody in charge that we run, now we run and own that country. Now we can have landing strips to attack any other their neighbors out of Iraq and Afghanistan. We got military bases in both of these countries, in Afghanistan and Iraq, so we can attack anybody from those two countries. We have unlimited resources from those countries. We're taking all their oil. And same thing they're doing in Africa. That same thing Europe is doing all over Africa. Even China is getting involved in stealing resources out of Africa. Right now, African Americans are the richest Africans on the planet right now. And so somebody else was saying that African Americans here should reach back for our brothers and sisters over there in Africa. And this is something we need to get involved in and learn more about. If you look at our media, you will never see anything that's going on in Africa. The United States does not care what goes on in Africa. Therefore, that's why we have let so much genocide, murder go on. And the reason why we got all that genocide is because the governments was already toppled and taken over. And so now you put one family in charge that keeps millions, while Europe, Britain, France takes out billions, and all the resources trade. That's why every time you get married, you buy a diamond, believe it's coming from Africa, and we've caused that. Anyway, I want y'all to like, comment on this video, Send me a message, mylifeintheshy@gmail.com. Peace.